Braxton Garrett blew up in his first MLB start in nearly 2 years. Robby Snelling might be on the shelf for a significant time. Did the Marlins starting pitching depth just evaporate practically overnight?
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Ethan Eibe, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Marlins. Locked On is now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bet if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, we're going to preview the Marlins road series that begins tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll dive into the Marlins' tough series loss in Minnesota, but we're going to open our show with the state of this Marlins pitching staff after a rough weekend in Minneapolis. And before we dive into all of that, we're going to welcome in a very special guest to the program. It is my honor to bring in Chase, loud Miami fan, a good friend of the program, the hero of Marlins Twitter. My good friend, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Ethan. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back on Locked On Marlins.
Absolutely, sir. And you're feeling, I know you posted some stuff recently. How are you feeling, sir? You good?
Feeling amazing. Health issues happen and you move through them and you stay positive and only good things happen.
No doubt about it. So let's talk some fish, because this was another rough series the Marlins felt they could have had. It feels like we've been saying that quite a lot lately, because the Marlins have only won 5 series all season long. They dropped 2 of 3 to the Minnesota Twins. They're now 4 games under 500, and the real dominant storyline of this past weekend was Robby Snelling going on the IL and the return of Braxton Garrett. Let's start with Braxton. He was on the IL for all of last year, went through another elbow surgery, hadn't pitched in the big leagues in almost 2 years. It was a rough outing for him on Sunday, wasn't it?
It was the tale of 2 Braxtons in that game. You get the Braxton that walks the bases loaded, that the bases go loaded, and then he strikes out 3 straight in the first inning. Second inning, you start off again, loading the bases, and he couldn't get out of it. So the tale of 2 Braxtons. You got the Jacksonville Braxton, who was on fire. He threw a no-hitter, comes up and gives up a dud, 1 1/3 inning.
Yeah, inning and a third on 4 hits. He totally gives up 5 earned runs. He walked 5, which was his second highest walk total throughout his entire big league career. He struck out 3 batters in that first inning. In total, Chase, he threw 64 pitches and threw 30 of them for strikes, and it really just didn't look right from the start with him. And walks haven't typically been his issue, but he just couldn't locate anything. He was missing with a lot of uncompetitive pitches.
What was it? Jitters? What was it? We just don't know. It's quite a feat for him to come in and have such a horrible outing. And I believe in Brax. Like, I want the Brax that went before the IL, before the Phillies playoff Brax. The guy who just added another pitch and was coming into his own as a top 3 starter in that rotation in 2023. He misses year and a half, comes back, and I believe he'll be on the right end of a win coming up next week. You can't have 2 bad games in a row.
Totally. Hope so. I mean, the Marlins have a 3-game set with the Rays coming up, and then they'll go home and play the first place Atlanta Braves for a 4-game set. It's a tough stretch. This is kind of the back end of what was 25 games in 26 days. Now they've got 13 straight games with 13 straight days with games rather. But with Brax, like you mentioned, he was dominating AAA. He had like you said, you mentioned the no-hitter that ended up being a jumbo shrimp loss, believe it or not. The ERA was down to 2.3 on the season. His whip was under 1. That led all of the International League as well. But he just wasn't able to put it together in his first start, and the Marlins bullpen got absolutely taxed. They had to go through 7 innings, and that's tough if you're Clayton McCullough, because like we said, you have basically 2 more weeks straight before you have your next off day.
When you send down Eknes for Brax to come up, and you already had sent down Dax Fulton, you don't have a long guy in that bullpen. You don't have a guy that's going to be able to give you 3 innings. That's something they're missing. And you don't want bullpen games like this, but it's baseball. It's going to happen throughout the season. So they need to find a long guy somewhere here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Dax came up last week, gave them, in a pinch out of the bullpen, gave them 4 innings. So if they have to call upon him again at some point, they do have some pitching depth at AAA Jacksonville. But think about this from our perspective. A couple of weeks ago, here we are clamoring on this show and across the Marlins social media world for Chris Paddack to get booted out of the rotation. Because, hey, we've got Robby Snelling chomping at the bit. Braxton Garrett is dominating, and Braxton took his demotion to the minor leagues with class because he knew he had to earn his spot back. And then Paddack ultimately doesn't get the job done across the first 6 weeks of the season. And we now find ourselves in a spot here where the Marlins pitching depth perhaps is thinner than we thought, and especially now because Robby Snelling might be missing significant time. What we found out this weekend, he's going on the injured list. He's on the 15-day IL with a UCL sprain in his left elbow. Clayton McCullers said he felt it during an off-day bullpen in Minnesota. We don't know the full extent of how much time he is going to miss, but it's just unfortunate because he came up. He didn't look bad in his big league debut. He took the loss, but he gave up all 3 of his runs in that first inning, settled into the ballgame after that, and gave the Fish 5 innings against Washington. I really was looking forward to seeing the next chapter of his big league career, but now it looks like we have to wait a little bit.
It seems as history is repeating itself with our starting pitching. If you go back to, I believe it was 2023, Max Meyer came up for his major league debut, gave them, I think, 4 innings. After that, he went out to Pittsburgh and lasted 1 inning, if 1 inning, before coming out of that game, of course, needing Tommy John. Is the same thing happening to Snelling? They haven't announced it, but we all know where this usually leads, unless you're Edward Cabrera and you have that UCL tear or UCL sprain pop up at least twice a season, which we hope that Snelling is okay and doesn't need it, but they have to prepare for it. No doubt that just having Ryan Gusto, however you want to pronounce it, waiting in the wind here to come up, Brax needs to be better. And maybe they made a mistake here. And I'll say this about the Marlins. Maybe they made the mistake in not bringing Brax up back first and then Snelling up later. Was Snelling ready? Most likely. As you mentioned, he gave us 1 inning of a bad baseball or insignificant baseball, but then calmed down after that for the remainder of the game on Friday last week. I was always saying, hey, bring Brax up first because he had the major league experience. Maybe they should have reversed it. I'm not going to say yay or nay on that, but maybe they did make a mistake there. But Paddack was just a failure. It's sad to see. And ultimately, is the failure not the pitchers, but is the failure coming from this call the pitches from the dugout thing? And that could be a whole nother show with you about that. But they're calling pitches and they're getting beat up a lot. Not so much the bullpen. The bullpen's kept it down, but the starters, including Sandy, Eury, they're just getting beat up. I think the only starter who is not really making the mistakes right now from the pitch calling is Max. Max kind of has it down, and he's giving them the innings and the strikeouts for it. But every other starter is struggling, and you got to look at it and go, is this a organizational mishap, or is it the starters, the pitchers themselves? Ultimately, it's baseball. I think it should be called between pitchers and catchers. But back to the depth. We don't have it anymore. When you trade 2 starting pitchers, you DFA another, an injury happens to one of your guys coming up. We were talking pre-show about Thomas White, and is he going to be ready at some point this year? Hopefully, but they really have to rely on who they have. And it would be nice to see all 6'8" of Dax Fulton getting a major league start at some point here.
Yeah, and, it could happen that way at some point. We did talk about Thomas White before the show. He has struggled a little bit in his last couple of starts down in AAA Jacksonville. And in case you are new to this new era of Locked On Marlins. I work for the Jumbo Shrimp as a communications assistant, so I'm around the team quite a bit. Get to see these guys on a regular basis. So Thomas White's been a mixed bag so far for his season down here, but he's still the number one Marlins prospect and one of the best left-handed pitching prospects in all of baseball. So hopefully he can turn that around and give the Marlins another option perhaps at this point, at some point in the season. But before we get into our next segment where we dig more into this Minnesota series, do you think, Chase, that the Marlins are starting to regret dealing from that depth of Edward Cabrera and Ryan Weathers this offseason?
Well, unfortunately, the way Owen Caissie has been struggling, you got to assume there's some regret in the Edward Cabrera trade. I mean, it was the right time. I think Marlins fans can agree he was never going to have higher trade value than Edward did, and he's just an injury away, right? You were, as we mentioned before, those UCL sprains and whatnot, those back flares, and even sometimes his fingers bleeding and whatnot. Edward Cabrera is always one pitch away from an IL stint, so they had to deal him. The Ryan Weathers trade, from what I hear from the FOF team, is that the player that they got for him, he's doing all right. He's hitting home runs in whichever spot of the minor leagues he's in, whether it be double A or triple A. So he's coming up. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Weathers' worst start for the Yankees was against the Marlins. He's done very well in all his other starts for the New York Yankees. And Edward Cabrera's been on my fantasy team rolling for the Cubs. He right. So, you do regret it at some point, but I believe in Peter Bendix. He hasn't done anything wrong so far to say, oh, he's made a mistake. I think he'll fix it. And when let me retract that. When he does make a mistake, he fixes it himself, like releasing Chris Paddack this early in the season. You don't expect the injury to happen, and you don't expect Brax to come out and give you 1 1/3. You expect him to give you a full 5 or 6 innings. So they'll right the ship. I'm more worried about the hitting and this on-off switch that they seem to turn it on one game, turn it off the next game, and making other pitchers look like Cy Young candidates.
Well, that's exactly what I want to dig into next when we dig deeper into this Marlins series loss to Minnesota. We're going to get into all of that right after these messages from FanDuel and Rocket Money. The NBA playoffs are here and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every single game. It's a really easy app to navigate as well, and it makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. And it's not just hoops. The Marlins are currently minus 102 to win today's series opener against the Tampa Bay Rays. It's a 7-10 start time for that one. So the Fish, slight underdogs here on this Friday night, but you can get into the action and head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Also a message from Rocket Money. If you've ever opened up your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. So how does Rocket Money help you keep track of those finances? It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going, and you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. And before we dig into our second segment here, Chase, let's talk about the Everydayer Club for just a moment. Baseball is back, and to celebrate, I'm giving you a full month of the Everydayer Club absolutely for free. Go to lockedonmarlins.supercast.com and use code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad-free and get access to our private listener group chat. Tap the link in the show notes and use code FINALLY to claim your free month. With that, let's dig deeper into this Marlins Twins series from earlier this week. The Marlins dropped 2 out of 3. In Game 1, it was a tough one to swallow. A 3-0 loss. The offense only puts up 2 hits. Eury Perez got the start, gave up all 3 of those runs in the 5th inning. And Chase, the Marlins made Bailey Ober look like the second coming of Cy Young, an 89-pitch Maddox.
Ober looked amazing in his start against us. What can you say? You can't win a game when you score 0 runs. You can't win a game when you're striking out so many times. It seems like some of the players on our team are all struggling at once, and it's contagious. Usually hitting is contagious. Struggling is contagious right now on this team. It seems like Jakob Marsee, he did have a home run, I believe, in this series in Game 2, which is great. You're excited for that, but he's swinging and missing it. Pitches that he shouldn't be swinging it. Instead of taking the walk, players like Hernandez are swinging when it's 3-1, and they're getting into a bad count or popping the ball up. Some of these guys just look lost out there. Stowers isn't hitting with power right now. He's not the same Stowers we saw in 2025. He's back to his 2024 days with us. And that was the problem that the Orioles had with him and why he was expendable, I think, at age 27 then. He just couldn't stay up in the majors because of the hitting woes. When you can name only 3 players on your 26-man roster who are consistently hitting the ball, and that's Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, and Liam Hicks, when only 3 of your 26 men, if you go 3 out of 13, if that's how the roster sits, you're not going to be winning series or games, and the Marlins are showing it. It's just not there for us right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Some days it's hot, some days it's not. Such was the case in Game 2 on Wednesday when the Marlins strung together a 9-5 win. They backed up Max Meyer with 11 hits. Meyer, in his first start back in his native Minnesota, he really gutted out 5 2/3 innings. I really wanted to see some great stuff from him this week. And though he didn't quite live up to what my Eibe's eye pick was in our episode earlier this week, I asked for 7 innings and 10 Ks. He came up just short. He gave us 9 strikeouts. Still, absolutely no complaints there. The only mistakes really were to Byron Buxton, who homered twice against him, but otherwise he looked pretty locked in, and I love what we've seen from Max early this year.
Max has looked great. He's everything that a first-round pick should be in his 3rd or 4th year in the majors, and that's after missing a full season with Tommy John. They always said that he was a little pit bull. Like, he's undersized. I mean, he can't be more than 5'8". They'll probably have him listed around 6 foot, but if you ever see him and stand next to him, I'm 5'4". He's not 6 foot, right? And I could tell the difference. But he's a bulldog out there, and he pitches like it. He's not the Chihuahua who's humping your leg. He's the pit bull barking at you, staring you down, and you don't want to get close to him. 9 strikeouts, 14 strikeouts last year. He's coming off that 7-inning home game. I believe I was at last Saturday. He's just been doing great for us. He's the most consistent pitcher. If you're going to have one pitcher maybe get to the All-Star game, it's going to be him. It's not Sandy. Eury's underperformed this year. Eury just doesn't look right, especially when he gets up 0-2. He seems to cower back. He doesn't have that closing mentality where Sandy had in his 3rd or 4th year when he became Sandy in 2021. Really, I know he won the Cy Young in 22, but Sandy really became coming out party in the shortened season and then the year after. Eury's just not there yet, and it's a coaching problem. It's again, I don't blame the pitchers. It's a coaching problem where you have to beat in them, not hit, but beat into their mind that they're hunters. The Max Meyer mentality, where you're hunting, you're attacking. close them off when it's 0-2. I've seen Eury start getting in full counts. But back to your question, I know I go off on tangents, but back into your question about Max Meyer, he's just been a dog for us, and you gotta love it.
Yeah, Meyer's been fantastic. He's basically a hockey player in a baseball player's body. That's kind of the way it is because he's from Minnesota. That's what he grew up playing as well. He's really done well by not getting those big innings that ate him alive the last couple of seasons. He's avoided those kinds of frames this year. It's just it's a maturity evolution. It's an attack evolution. And it's something that hopefully Eury Perez can pick up on here soon as well, because he's using his fastball 61% of the time. It's a great fastball, of course, but it's at times something he over relies on. So hopefully he can kind of mix in some other pitches here a little bit more, get better command of those ones, and he can lock in a little bit more down the stretch here. But before we get into our last segment about previewing this Tampa Bay Rays series, I do want to touch on one of the brighter notes from Game 2. Joe Mack, Xavier Edwards, Hicks, Otto Lopez, they all provided run-scoring hits, but Owen Caissie homered, his first home run since April 1st. It's been a tough sled for Caissie. We know that. The strikeout rate is north of 40%. It's not pretty, but what did you like from that? Do you think that this is finally Caissie turning the corner here?
You hope so. You got the thing about Caissie is this: the platooning is not helping him at all. When you're in one game out the other, when you're not going against lefties, I know they had Slater brought in to hit lefties, and that was a big issue at the beginning of the season. But you gotta play Owen Caissie versus everybody. He's young. He's 22. Let him make the mistakes that he's making. He'll get out of it. He was one of the Cubs' top prospects at one point, right? He just didn't forget how to hit. You got to leave him in. You got to get him through it. And he's coming out with that home run. He said the first since April 1st. It was nice to see the power's there. We know it's there. It's a confidence thing, and it's a playing in every game thing. No more platooning. Leave him in. Let him be in the same spot. Stop switching him for 8 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. Leave him. I think they have him in the 7th spot right now. Leave him in the 7th spot. It's not too much pressure down there. You're going to get your at-bats, and he'll be fine. He's young. He's 22. You know, these guys, you don't want what happened to Lewis Brinson going back in our history. You don't want to put that much pressure on him to be like, oh, you have to be the next big thing here. No, just be you. And, you know, I don't know if they hear me when I'm sitting in row 2 at some home games behind that batter's area before they come to bat. But I always say, just relax, like be yourselves, man. You got here for a reason, and he'll be fine. He's young.
Yes, indeed. Well, hopefully he can keep it going. We'll get into our next segment here in a moment. Before we do, we will get you this message from Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right time, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who will give you less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. So with that, loud Miami fan, Mr. Chase, the Marlins have an interesting set of games coming up here. The Rays on the road, the Braves then at home. They have overall 13 straight games before their next off day. So that makes this a really pivotal period moving forward against back-to-back first place opponents. Where is your head at heading into this road set against the Rays?
Whenever you have Sandy and Eury in a series going back to back, you expect a series victory. I'll be honest, I haven't followed any of Rays baseball this season. I have zero interest in that. I see that they're in the standings. They're leading the American League East, as you said. They're a grid team. They've proven that. They're what the Marlins want to be, a low-spending team who is consistently winning in a tough division. So I commend the Rays for that. But we haven't won a series in Tampa Bay in many years. But I remember Sandy pitching there the year before as Tommy John and having a complete 9-inning shutout. I think he could do it again. I believe in Sandy. Again, Jansen Junk is not to be sat on tonight either on Friday night. He's been doing really well for the Marlins. He had one blow-up game. Again, it's going to happen. This is the majors. But he's all right. They should win this series whenever you have Eury and Sandy.
Yeah, it'll be tough still. The Rays are 28-14. They are first in the East, 2 games ahead of the Yankees in the AL East. While the Marlins are 4th in their division, just 4 games under 500 at this point. They've been kind of flirting with that 500 mark all season long. 1 game back of second, where the Phillies and Nationals are tied. 10 games back overall of the Braves for first. So it's just about keeping up that pace. And to give more context to what you said just before, the Marlins, yes, they have struggled overall against the Rays. Overall, the Rays lead the all-time Citrus Series, 84 wins to 63 losses. And the Marlins are 6-18 against the Rays since 2021. So look to go to the Trop and get it done. Tonight, it's a 7:10 first pitch. Jansen Junk takes on Jesse Schlottens against the Rays. Saturday, we'll have Sandy Alcantara against Nick Martinez. Martinez has been excellent. The 4th best ERA, 1.70 among MLB pitchers with at least 47 innings this year. That's better than Chris Sale, Paul Skeens, and even the Miz, Jakob Mizorowski. And then the series concludes Sunday, 12:15. Eury Perez goes against Drew Rasmussen. The Marlins have to play better on the road. I mean, they're 6-12 on the road this season. So hopefully going to the Trop can be good for them. Hopefully they're able to put together more consistency at the plate. I think that's what we just have to see.
To be the team that I believe that they can be, and that's finish around or above. I have them at 500 or above this season. I think we could do 4 games better, 5 games better than last year. To do that, you only have to win 20 road games out of your 60, or out of your 80 rather. So let's get some winning road starts now. It's time. And no better place in your home state in a Citrus Series that has been owned by your home state opponent. Yeah, we have 2 World Series, but they have a lot more winning seasons than us. So it's time that we start beating them down, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully Joe Mack has a good series. He's starting most of the games. We know Liam Hicks will continue hitting. It's no wind in Tropicana, no excuses. Get those balls out of that ballpark. And hopefully Kyle Stowers, who made his Marlins debut in Tampa Bay after the trade, like immediately after the trade with the Orioles, hopefully he steps up and gets it going. This team's a good team. They're just underperforming. And who's going to be that leader this weekend? Who's going to be that leader that steps up in the clubhouse and goes, guys, now's the time we win. Let's get louder and let's get better.
That's the enthusiasm that I was looking for there, Chase. We always have our picks to click at the end of every episode before a new series. My Ibe's Eye. We're calling yours Louder Lock. So with that, you're the guest. What's yours?
All right. My louder lock is that Eury Perez is going to go 8 innings on Sunday. 8 innings. I don't know if he's made 7 yet this season. I think he did. But let's go 8 innings for Eury versus Drew Rasmussen. That's not an easy battle, but it's time again for Eury to step up. I will go 8 innings and 7 strikeouts that game. Get some ground balls rolling.
You are asking for a lot from Eury Perez, but I respect that. He did go 7 innings, actually. He did so in his first start of the season against Colorado. For my Ibe's Eye, Pete Fairbanks is coming off the injured list. Josh Eknes was optioned in his place over this last Minnesota series. So I'm looking for a good bounce back from Pete Fairbanks. You're going to have to see it from a guy that you're paying $13 million to close out games. The Marlins hopefully can win this series. If they take 2 out of 3, I think you see 2 saves from Pete Fairbanks. So that is what my Eibe's eye is on. With that, this has been Locked On Marlins. Loud Miami fan, Chase, it's so good to have had you on the show. I'm glad that we could do this, and it will not be the last time.
It's great to be here and back on Locked On Marlins. Congratulations on the gig. And anytime you need me, I'm here for you, my friend. Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning into Locked On Marlins here on this Friday. We're going to be back with you on Monday. We'll get you all the reaction from this weekend series against the Rays, and we'll see if those picks did, in fact, click. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Marlins on all of your social medias so you can get all of the latest episodes. You can find the show at LO_Marlins. You can find me on essentially every platform at EIBEPXP, EIBEPXP. Chase, you have anything to plug for yourself?
Well, you can always find me at Loud Miami Fan on all social media platforms, not Facebook, but on the regular ones, X, Instagram, and you'll see me dancing on TikTok. It's just great being here, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
No doubt about it. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Marlins ad-free, plus members own the Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnMarlins.supercast to join the club. And for those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel on audio for your second listen. Go and check out Locked On MLB. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Monday right here on Locked On Marlins.